Hello, hello, and welcome to Decaf, a production of the Beacon Center of Tennessee. Taylor and Mark back with you on this gloomy day in Nashville, but it's nice and bright in my house because of all my Christmas lights. Mark, if you're listening and not watching, Mark is fully decked out in jazz gear today. I feel like I always have to give an update on what Mark is wearing because it's always jazz related, even though our boy Colin Sexton got hurt last night, as I was just informed. So sad for my Crimson Tide, man. Hopefully it's a quick recovery for him, right?
Yep. Well, the Jazz had one of the greatest comebacks ever last night. They were down by 4 points with 9 seconds to go, and they won the game in regulation, which is almost impossible down by 4. They had to hit a three, got a steal, and got a dunk with like 1 second left to win the game. So it was one of the coolest wins over the defending champion Golden State Warriors.
Oh my gosh, huge game for you guys
Very
last night.
Cool.
I did not watch sports last night. I watched Miracle on 34th Street for the first time ever. And
new one or old one?
New one.
Well,
1994 new, not
that's
like
what
the black and white one.
It's 1947 or 1994. I actually saw it on there, and there was a playground on 34th Street in like the beach town I used to go to that was like based off of that. It was so cool.
Oh, that's really cute. I love that. Well, I'm fully in the Christmas spirit. I ate string cheese and watched a Christmas movie last night. So while you were watching sports, I was doing my favorite things, eating cheese and watching a children's Christmas movie.
I don't think string cheese is part of Christmas traditions. I don't know how that makes you the Christmas.
No, I'm just saying it's one of my favorite things to do is eat cheese and watch Christmas movies. And so that is what I did. Before we get started, I have to give a shout out. My sister's father-in-law, who I know has listened to this podcast, he made, and you guys, if you're hearing this and you want some of this coffee, DM me and we'll get you some. He is roasting his own coffee beans these days, and I am drinking the most incredible. Now I'm drinking a cold thing, but earlier this morning I drank a French press of this roasted coffee that he just makes in a roaster in his backyard. And I think I might have found my hobby for 2023. I kind of want to buy a coffee bean roaster and roast coffee beans like he's doing. It is the best coffee I've ever tasted.
How does that work? Like you have to get where does he get? You get beans from somewhere and then put it in this machine or something?
He orders beans and he's got this little machine that I don't know if you've ever seen coffee be roasted, but there's like a little arm that moves along the platform that keeps the beans moving so that they don't get burned as they're roasting. And it's just look up a YouTube video of coffee bean roasting. It's fascinating.
Can you add in flavors when you're roasting it?
Oh, I don't know. You know me. You want to add in blueberry. I want to just drink straight unleaded black coffee like gasoline.
But I'm just interested because it sounds like I feel like the beans obviously don't have that flavor, so you have to mix that in at some point. I'm assuming it's in the roasting process.
Probably so. You know, you've asked me this question. I'm going to Wikipedia spiral like very shortly on this, and I will let you know what my research.
Okay, no more questions. I'm just interested.
No further questions. I will figure it out for you. Another big shout out is to our team. Every year we work super hard on our pork report. And next week, the annual pork report will come out. And I know that we do a lot of work on education and healthcare and worker freedom and all this kind of stuff. And that is really the crux of what we do. But everyone loves the pork report. And I always get so excited when it comes out because it's our most popular report of the year. We're having a Young Professionals event the night that it comes out to talk specifically about the pork report itself because everyone loves it. And Mark and I work super hard on it. Mark specifically, our whole staff writes really snarky, funny entries about what's going on in Tennessee and how taxpayer money was wasted or abused throughout the year. So, Mark, give us a little teaser. What were some of your favorite things that we covered this year without giving too much away? No spoilers, but teasers. Give us like a trailer for the pork report.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say it's not quite as snarky this year because Justin did it right, and as you know, he can be the king of snark when he
Justin's a savage. Justin's a stone cold savage.
Very sassy. Very good report. Still, it's not worse, but it's a little bit less. I guess sassy would be the right word, but it's a very good report. Got to give a shout out to our new graphic designer, Macy. She did a very good job designing it and did a great job on that. And I'm not going to give it away, but I am very excited for the pork of the year. Sometimes, this year we kind of did it in-house instead of having, people vote, because then people always complain, oh, why was this not included? Why was this one included? But the one that we picked this year as a staff is it's something I think is really great. And, sometimes I disagree with the pork of the year. I say, of course, that was terrible.
Yeah.
But I think this one's worse. This year, I am fully on board. And I'm going to tell you the title of it without telling you what it's about. But it's called Moving the Goalpost. So who knows what that is, but it's an interesting title. And we have a lot of great stuff. We talked about this from across the state. So it's not just Nashville. It's not just, the state government. We have some things in a place called Dresden, which is West Tennessee. Of course, you always have some Memphis examples. We have a really spicy one from Knoxville this year. And then the Tri-Cities were featured twice for kind of some weird sporting things that they chose to do this year.
The Dresden one, I think, is the spiciest of all. And I agree with you. The pork of the year this year, our staff agreed on it unanimously. It was barely even a discussion. It came up and we were all like, oh, this is so very clearly the porkiest pork that there ever was. And even though the Dresden one was super spicy, Jordan and I really liked that one. The Knoxville one made me furious, made me so mad. The one that I wrote made me so mad. The one that I wrote, we've actually talked about on the podcast before. And so I'll be curious for you listeners if you have, if you can notice the one that I wrote, but there are some on here that, and I had a great time coming up with titles. I feel like that's kind of my gifting is I'm not a great writer, but I'm snarky. And so some of the titles that we came up with, I had a great time coming up with those. I
had to change about 10 of them too. So hopefully your two or the other two that we kept on there, because I will give credit to our staff for writing. Jason, they're not great at titles though. So I had to change basically 10 or 9 of the titles, and pretty much again, Jason did a great job writing. I think every title he did had to be changed,
had to be redone. And then I think that some of my titles, Mark said about one of them, we can't say this. So some of mine were a little too intense, but I have no regrets. I feel really good about being snarky where snark is due.
I want to also say that one of the cool things about the pork of the year, which we're not going to give away, is it's not a one-off thing where it's like, oh, there's this one example in this one part of the state. It is statewide, and there is a lot of different examples of this one thing. So it's I think it's cool because it's not just, we had MNPS, using $17 million for basically a fraudulent contract, it seems like. But this year it's like this affects the entire state, and it affects all state taxpayers. So I think it'll be exciting for that reason.
Yeah, I think it's going to get a lot of attention specifically because it is so egregious and so widespread, so it's a huge widespread issue that this is, we don't like to see things like this, but it's kind of fun to have a pork of the year that really applies to the entire state. So stay tuned for the pork report. If you want to get it straight in your inbox before anyone else does, go to our website, beacontn.org, sign up for emails, or comment below in this video that you want to get the pork report first. I'll contact you, get your email address, and we'll get you on that list. But it comes out on Wednesday morning. What day is that? The 13th?
No, it's
Tuesday morning, 13th? The 14th. It comes out the 14th. It comes out Wednesday the 14th. Gosh, my brain.
Please do not give people the wrong date. This is
I'm not. Gosh, I can't keep my days straight. Christmas is so hectic for everyone. Wednesday, December 14th, it comes out. We're so excited to release this one. I think it's one of the best as far as what we included this year that we've ever had. So that's really exciting. Now we've gotten the good stuff out of the way. Let's talk about something that might be a hot take, might not be a hot take. It was kind of infuriating to me this morning. A few months ago, we talked about Brittany Griner getting picked up in Russia for traveling with weed. And I think that the consensus that we came to, Mark, was like, don't travel with weed in Russia. That's so dumb. That's just dumb. Well, this morning, I am greeted on Twitter with Biden victory. Brittany Griner is free. I've got some thoughts about this. I have a fundamental disagreement with not with trading American citizens for citizens of other countries. That's not it. No one wants what happened to Otto Warmbier to ever happen to anyone else again. However, this girl made a huge mistake, did something so stupid, and in order to get her back, we had to trade a very dangerous Russian to get her back. A female athlete who traveled with weed, which she should not have done. And in a country that hates us, I just imagine that when the Russian authorities picked her up and saw American citizen traveling with marijuana. We can snatch her. The authorities were thinking, this is going to feed my family forever. This is a huge get, and we're going to have to negotiate with the United States, and they're going to have to give us someone that we want back, probably someone very dangerous, because we've got them in a chokehold with someone who is famous and a woman who we picked up, and they're going to have to negotiate and give us what we want. And to me, it just, if I were her, I would feel so terrible. Like, I would feel so bad. I don't know what your thoughts are, Mark, but like, it just doesn't seem like a victory. I mean, it is for her and her family, but as far as foreign policy is concerned, this doesn't feel like a victory. And I keep seeing all over Twitter, Biden administration victory, Brittany Griner's coming home. At what cost? At what cost? I don't know.
Yeah, I saw a funny meme that said, like, oh, the Russians, they really would have sent a message to the U.S. They took a women's basketball player, shows how little they know about our priorities as America. But
Mark, that's so horrible.
It was a funny meme about that because, I mean, nobody watched WNBA, but it's hard. I think that most of what you say is right. Anytime in sports or anything else, when you make a trade, just making the trade isn't a victory on its own. It's what you're getting in return and what you're getting back. Of course, Brittany Griner, she doesn't deserve what happened to her, but she put herself in that situation for sure. Did. And of course it's good to get her back, doing something as minimal as, having marijuana on you, obviously you shouldn't necessarily get 10 years in prison in Russia, but those are the rules. And we keep saying, that when you go to another country or another place, you need to understand the rules. So it's really hard. And it seems like, let somebody loose. And I think my bigger issue is, who are other people right now that are trapped in different countries or even Russia that just don't have the name ID that Brittany Griner or the national media attention that Brittany Griner had, that were leaving there? Are we trading for her because she's kind of famous? Because then that just shows kind of there's people who are probably captured there who have done nothing wrong, who are not getting back.
I know.
And I think that's the hard part for me. I'm sure that, the Biden administration, the people in there know more about the situation than I do, obviously, but it just kind of seems unfair to me because it seems like, it just seems like she's getting preferential treatment because the media has made a big deal about her. We're like, and I understand, but I haven't seen that made about anybody else who's there. And again, there's people all over the world that are American citizens that are captured that we're not doing anything for.
I know. And we just, it really gives me heartburn because we traded a very dangerous man for a non-dangerous woman who got herself in a bad situation because she did something dumb. That rubs me the wrong way. Now, I am happy for her family, that she is safe, healthy, and coming home. I just feel like maybe it was a failure of negotiation. Maybe I don't know. There's a hot take on it. I certainly don't think it's an American victory to have done what we did today. Again, y'all, if you listen to the podcast, you know me. I'm kind of a bleeding heart sometimes. I really value human life. I'm so thankful that she is coming home. It just irks me that we're trading a dangerous criminal for her because she got herself into this situation. Like when, and I know this is a really hot take and it's super nuanced, but when we traded Bo Bergdahl for what was it, like 3 Taliban fighters, like there's just, when people get themselves into these situations, it sometimes I wonder, the adversaries are the countries that are our adversaries, and they capture Americans. They know that they have us in a chokehold because they know that we will do whatever it takes to bring Americans home. And it bugs me to be kind of manipulated in that way by other countries. And so if I were traveling in another country, I would do everything I can to follow their rules so that America isn't put in the position to have to trade someone very dangerous for my life.
And like you said, it is nuanced. And, if whether it's you did nothing wrong, you're going over there as part of the military, you're going over there for vacation, whatever you're choosing to do, it's like you're taking a risk. And at some point, just because, you don't deserve that to happen, again, every trade, it's like you have to evaluate it on its merits. Would you trade, 5,000 Taliban people for, the Pope or like whatever, whoever, like whoever you consider the height of morality? Like the answer is no. And it sucks. And it's like, and it's unfair. But that's kind of the point. It's not fair this is happening. It's not fair that Brittany Griner got that time. But with that being said, it's like those are their rules, and not every trade's a good trade. I mean, we've seen in every sport possible. Just because you trade to get a star or whatever you call it, but if you're trading away more than you're getting back, then that's not a great deal. And if you're, what you say, making the world more dangerous to get Brittany Griner back, I think it's really, really nuanced. I don't think we're experts in foreign policy.
No,
but
we're not.
On the surface, of what we're seeing, I certainly agree with you. It doesn't seem like a victory for them, and it seems like it's unfair. It's almost like the corporate welfare for this. Like you're picking some individuals over other ones. That's what you're doing. The government is picking Brittany Griner over other people who are Americans who are trapped, that are maybe military members who maybe have done nothing wrong at all, as opposed to Brittany Griner, who broke
journalists.
A law. Yeah,
think about exactly. Journalists.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're holding the Saudi Arabia, like they're fine for murdering a journalist, but this is something we're going to do. So this
is what we're going to do.
It's nuanced. I feel like, as much as, it seems like the Biden administration has had some real foreign policy blunders so far. Maybe more than anything else, I think that foreign policy has been the area where they have really, really lacked so far, and had made some poor decisions between the Afghanistan pullout and some of these negotiations. Like that seems to be, which is funny because that's kind of what Biden ran on, was his foreign policy expertise. And again, we talked about this a lot. Say what you want about Trump, and we do, and all the, obviously you've got a lot of negatives, but the foreign policy part seemed to be an advantage for him. And certainly it looks much better in hindsight when you see some of the issues that Biden's had.
I agree. The Saudi Arabian thing, don't even get me started on that. We'll be here for hours. When everything kind of went down a couple weeks ago about brushing that kind of away, that lit me up. And journalists, I listened to a podcast I think it was by the Washington Post, about a journalist that was held in Iran for 3 years and nothing happened for him. Like it just makes you wonder, is the priority of human life, or is it a political priority to make you look good? I don't know. I have issues, and we all know this because I talk about it all the time. I have issues with using human life as a political chip to be played. So I'm glad that she's safe. I don't feel like it was a great deal, but I'm glad that she's safe, and I hope that the Biden administration kind of figures it out and gets the foreign policy going, because
figures out how to do foreign policy in the next couple of years.
Figures out how to do foreign policy quick, ASAP, PDQ. I think that there's a lot of room to grow. I will just leave it at that.
That's the nicest way to say that ever. Like, the Biden administration has a lot of room to grow when it comes to Also, somebody says, this is kind of really, but somebody said something funny to me. I was asking them, I don't remember who it was. I was asking if they liked this food. And, where I would say, hey, no, that food's disgusting or gross. They said, that's a taste I have yet to acquire. I'm like, wow, that is the nicest way ever of saying that food's disgusting. And I just thought it was hilarious. I'm like, no, that's the grossest thing ever. Like, that sounds like what you just said. It's like, there's a lot of room to grow.
There's a lot of charms of Southern women, and as Southern women, we are taught to absolutely slice and dice you with our words in the nicest way possible. And so saying that they have a lot of room to grow is me being a genteel Southern woman, but also absolutely cutting to the bone. So if you're ever talking to me, be aware that I can absolutely cut you to the bone with my words, and you will have no idea that I'm doing it. It's a power that us Southern women have. Let's talk about college football. Mark is happy. I am accepting. I am dealing with stages of grief. I am in acceptance at the moment. Mark is absolutely thrilled and actually already put his money on Kansas State for the Sugar Bowl. I will be watching. My mom and I kind of joked about, if Alabama makes it into the playoffs, we're absolutely going, because all of the planets have aligned and we would have to go. We didn't. Everyone's happy except for me, but I'm accepting because we didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. We didn't deserve it, and I admit that. But let's make some playoff predictions, Mark. Let's talk about what we think is going to go down in the next few weeks.
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's important to say the 4 most deserving teams made the playoffs. Not to say that
TCU, but okay.
I mean, TCU deserved it maybe more than anybody. TCU, I'm not saying. No, I think you're missing the point of not the 4 best teams.
I just don't like TCU.
I don't think anybody. You're like the only person who dislikes TCU. I have no idea why. Like,
there are
a bunch of underdogs who have done nothing but like exceed expectations and have won every close game they played. And I think they've won as underdogs 6 times this year. I think it's hard to not like them. But the 4 most deserving teams made the playoff. I would argue that Ohio State didn't really deserve to get in, but there was no team that clearly deserved it more than them. So I mean, that's the 4 most deserving teams, not the 4 most talented.
No, Ohio State's just so annoying. angry that I have to keep hearing about them for weeks. Like, oh, it's going to suck the life out of me, ruining Christmas. Total Grinch move.
You might hear more about them too, because I mean they really have a chance to upset Georgia. Because I mean I think they're the only team that actually in football that has the talent that can compete with Georgia. Because even Michigan and TCU, they're not as talented as Georgia is, but like Ohio State has the talents, and they kind of just underachieved. And that game against Michigan was embarrassing. So we have a couple of weeks till it happens. They picked the right 4 teams. I think that's the first step. In Alabama, again, I said they should not have been in front of Tennessee. It's an affront to everything Tennessee did this year and the fact they beat them head to head. I know you don't agree. It doesn't really matter because they're 5th and 6th either way, but I think that is ridiculous. But they picked the right 4 teams. I think that the Ohio State Georgia game is going to be very fun. I could see it turn into a Georgia blowout. I could also see it being a close Ohio State win. I think I don't really know what to expect from that game because Ohio State's defense was really exposed in a few games this year. So I think Georgia will be able to take advantage of that. I also think Ohio State's going to be able to score. So I'm going to go with Georgia. I don't know, but I feel like Georgia's going to win. And then I think the one team that everyone has counted out all year, they should stop counting TCU out. Like they're a 10-point underdog against Michigan. 10 points. They've won. Yeah. They played in a tough conference, won every game except for their conference championship against a very tough team who they lost in overtime to. It's 10 points is too much. I still think Michigan wins, but like I think it's like an overtime or field goal at the end of the game type thing. So we can talk about the national championship when it happens, but I've kind of thought for the last about month, even before that, it was going to be a Georgia-Michigan championship. I still feel that way, but
I do too.
I could be wrong about both those games, and I think TCU is just a team that every time you count them out, they win games. So I think that it's just such a mistake to count them out and everything they've done. And people keep saying, hey, they've been so lucky this year. At some point, it's going to stop. Pretty much every time they say that, they keep winning. So I'm not betting against them. I'm actually going to bet on TCU to cover the spread against Michigan.
2 thoughts. One, my 2 best friends, he's a Georgia fan. She's a Michigan fan. They just started dating. They picked a really bad time to begin their relationship because if it's about to be a Georgia-Michigan national championship, I will not be watching with them because I can't pick a team. They're my 2 best friends. I can't pick a team. I can't comfort one and not the other. I will be watching that game alone, and I hope that for the sake of their budding romance that they also watch it alone. Second thought is Ohio State versus Georgia is a game that I wish both teams would lose. I'm so sick of Stetson Bennett. He gets on my nerves. His face gets on my nerves. His personality gets on my nerves. I can't stand him. Ohio State, everything about them gets on my nerves. I hate Ohio State. I've always hated Ohio State. They are the worst. I have a lot of besties that are Michigan fans, and so I feel like I was influenced really early in that rivalry in particular to be a Go Blue. But Ohio State, I went to the Sugar Bowl in like 2015 and Ohio State beat us, and their fans walking around New Orleans after the game with their fans on New Year's Day. I mean, New Orleans is a place of debauchery anyway when you're out near the Georgia Dome. Whoa. When you're out near the stadium, the Superdome, and you're out on Bourbon Street, their fans were absolutely insane. And that was when I started having my bad taste in my mouth for Ohio State. And so that's a game that I hope both teams lose. And I know that's not possible, but a girl can dream.
I think we're on the same page that like we both, I certainly prefer the 2 teams I want to win are playing each other because I want Michigan or TCU to win it all. And I am certainly like, I am all in on TCU. I'm cheering for them. Their story's so, they kind of remind you of Cincinnati from last year. They weren't even ranked before the season, TCU. I mean, they have such a good story.
I was going to say, last year you were a big Cincinnati guy, and that's probably, you're an underdog kind of guy.
I am, and TCU is like, they do everything the right way. I can't imagine they have enough talent to win, but that's certainly who I'm cheering for. Michigan plays football the right way, and they're not. I mean, Harbaugh's kind of annoying, but like I am definitely cheering for the winner.
Kind of annoying.
Well,
you saying Harbaugh is kind of annoying is just as soft and generous as me saying the Biden administration has room to grow.
Yeah, that
is very soft. Harbaugh is the worst.
He's just kind of so weird that I like give him a pass for being annoying. Like he's just a weird guy. He's a very strange man.
So weird.
But I definitely want the winner of that game to win. I'm going to cheer against the Georgia-Ohio State winner no matter what. And I think that Michigan, I think that's the thing. I think Michigan has a real chance. I mean, we seem to beat the crap out of Ohio State, and they have a real chance to take down Georgia, I think. TCU might not have as much of a chance, but they're such a fun story. And I bet them before the year at 100-1 to win the national championship. So
Whoa. You will be so rich.
I also have Michigan at 50-1. So I have one team in the national championship no matter what. So I'm going to win at least $1,000 if one of those two teams wins.
That's
so I'm
amazing.
cheering, and I already hate Georgia. I already hate Ohio State. I actually don't hate Georgia as much as you do. I hate Ohio State more than Georgia, I think.
It's not that I hate Georgia. I've always had respect for Georgia as a team because I feel like the culture in Athens is very similar to the culture in Tuscaloosa. I don't hate Georgia. I think that Stetson Bennett, he just gets on my nerves. My sister and I imitate. We always say, Stetson Bennett the fourth. Like, he's just like, because that's what his name, like, gets us going as. Is like
he seems like royalty.
But he seems like royalty, but also just like a little spoiled brat. Like, do you remember on Friday Night Lights? Oh, yeah. Like, well, yeah. You remember on Friday Night Lights, that Colt? Like, remember on the later seasons of Friday Night Lights when the new quarterback came in to the Dillon Panthers?
And that's what
his name was like, and his name was like Colt something. That Stetson Bennett strikes me as that kind of guy, and I just don't like those kind of guys.
What's weird is that I kind of agree with you, but like he's kind of an underdog type guy. I mean, he wasn't supposed to start. He's just kind of figured it out of like he's not a great player, and he's made the most of like he doesn't have that much talent, you know? So I think that there's something about that I actually don't dislike the guy. I actually think Georgia fans, and you're not going to like this, they're the least annoying of the SEC fans. They really are. Compared to Tennessee, compared to Alabama, mostly.
Just say it.
Compared to, I mean, maybe Arkansas too. LSU, it's like, I feel like most of the SEC fans base are super annoying in football. Georgia fans don't bother me. They've basically they're pretty much like, we don't expect to win. They weren't super cocky last year and they won the championship. So I actually like Georgia fans compared to I think Kentucky too, but like they're so like all the teams that have like fans that you don't hate are terrible. So the Georgia's the only team that doesn't have a terrible team that their fans are, I mean, you have to agree, their fans are not that bad compared to other teams you hate.
That's true. Auburn. Okay, let's talk about Auburn really quick. Yeah. Hugh Freeze going to Auburn. That is the most Auburn thing in the world to do, is hire a scumbag like Hugh Freeze. And listen, I believe in redemption for everyone. I think that everyone can find redemption and get their life back on track. But dude, he's gross.
I mean, you hired Lane Kiffin.
Gross.
Let's not act like you that Alabama has some moral superiority.
I'm not saying moral superiority. I'm saying that Hugh Freeze is a gross man, and it's the most Auburn thing in the world to do to hire Hugh Freeze.
I'm not on your side. I agree with you, but I feel like every person who does something wrong, Alabama then hires to be their offensive coordinator. I mean, what about Sarkisian? I mean, he was getting hammered to go to meetings. Like, everybody who does something wrong ends up going to Alabama, and then they get another head coaching job. So I agree with you on Hugh Freeze, but you are not the person to be sending this message. Alabama is the place where, like, the worst people go to coach that are good coaches but bad people, and hopefully try to, like figure out their reputation. So you're just not the person to talk about this.
Okay. Counterpoint, when we hire the bad people, we don't hire them as our head coach who sets the tone for our entire coaching staff. Nick Saban sets the tone for the coaching staff. You've got Hugh Freeze, who is so gross, setting the tone for the rest of their coaching staff and players. You've got to at least admit that.
So your counterpoint is, yes, we hire a bunch of scumbags consistently, but at least they're not the head coach. That's your argument right now, is that we hire just the worst people. But yeah. Oh, no. Osama bin Laden was only our defensive coordinator. It's fine, so we don't have to worry about any kind of morality clause. Yeah,
you are so dramatic. You are so dramatic.
I don't buy that point. It's like either you're okay with hiring not great people who make mistakes, or you're not. And obviously, you can't have one way and then say, "Oh, Alabama's not relevant because they're not head coaches." I agree. I actually think Hugh Freeze is a bad hire. Outside of his own personal things, I don't think he's a great head coach. I really don't. I think he's fine. He has enough name recognition to make, Liberty good, but not even great. I just don't agree. Outside of his personal issues, I don't think he's a great head coach. Like, I think Lane Kiffin, who has his own, real issues, is a much better coach than he is. And I think
Joey Freshwater can coach.
If Auburn's going to hire somebody who's not a great person, I think that he's a much better choice. But obviously, he chose not to go there. I mean, that was his decision, not Auburn's. But it seemed like Auburn kind of had it
for him.
It seemed like Auburn kind of had the idea, like, we're going to hire not a great person, so let's pick the best coach, no matter who it is.
Yeah, well, they picked Hugh Freeze, and I feel like it's the most Auburn thing in the world to do so. Good luck to you, Tigers. Best of luck with your new sleazy head coach. Really quick, let's talk about Christmas things to do around town in Nashville. If you live in Nashville, if you're visiting Nashville soon, these are some of our favorite things to do around town at Christmas. Mark proposed to his now wife at Cheekwood during Christmas. I've never been to Cheekwood, so I'm going Friday night. I'm really excited to see the Christmas lights there. And I'm also going to see the Nutcracker at T-Pack on the 17th. And then we're going to go to a little Christmas bar downtown. They every year all around town, all these bars, these kind of cocktail fusion bars, they basically create the whole bar into a wrapped Christmas present or some type of Christmas theme. So we're going to do a little date afternoon and go see the Nutcracker and then go pop around to some Christmas bars downtown. So I'm excited about that because I don't like sweet drinks. Usually I drink old fashions with rye, dirty martinis, but at the Christmas season, get me some fruity tooty, eggnog, or not eggnog, but
that sounds like the grossest thing ever. Right. Fruity tooty eggnog does not sound good.
I mean, like a fruity, like cranberry, like Christmas thing, or something like a gingerbread whipped cream. I don't know. Just like at Christmas time, who cares? Give me all the sweet things and I will drink them. What about you, Mark?
So I think the thing I missed most about not working downtown is all those Christmas bars. I mean, even when you first got there, me used to kind of walk around. We saw a couple places, and it was just cool to do. And there's even more this year. And unfortunately, I can't walk there. So I did go to the Christmas bar, the Christmas vacation bar at the Noel.
At the Noel, yeah.
Very, very cool. And actually tonight, me and Kira are kind of celebrating our Christmas tonight because we had her family before, and we're going to go to my family for a real Christmas. So we're having our own personal ones. We don't want to bring all the gifts to our family. So we're going to go to the Harpeth in downtown Franklin. They have a cool, lighted bar up. So I think it's the only Franklin bar that is like that. So we're going to do that. But they have a lot of cool Christmas drinks. So I feel like that's what I miss. I think if I lived downtown still, I would have gone to about 7 of these Christmas bars. Unfortunately, I don't anymore. So 2 is a good number for me, but it's just always cool to see it. It's weird that I'm really excited about driving home. So I'm driving home with myself for Christmas, but I'm excited to kind of stop and see, you drive at night, you see all the Christmas lights across from you. It's just, you listen to Christmas music by yourself. I'm stopping in Blacksburg, so we'll see how that is. And then I'll be in DC for a day because it's kind of on my way home. So I just like seeing the Christmas lights. But it's cool. It doesn't quite feel like Christmas yet. I don't know if you feel the same way or not, but it's like, I know. I don't know. It's so close and it feels like it's not.
I know. I totally agree. But hopefully after this weekend, we're going to go to Cheekwood Friday night. We're going to Huntsville on Saturday to hang out with my sister and her husband and go to Galaxy of Lights in Huntsville. And then Sunday, we have our church Christmas production. So I do think that it's going to start feeling a little more like Christmas. I have gifts under my tree that are not wrapped yet. They're just boxes that I've just shoved under the tree. So I got to get on that. But there's a lot of fun things to do in Nashville around the holidays, all over Tennessee throughout the holidays. There are light displays. I know that local newspapers always put those in the papers so people can access them. So, Mark, it's time for us to get in the spirit. I am channeling Cindy Lou Who.
And we both always, we haven't gone this year, but we both always love going to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge at Christmas too. I think we should do I wish we could do a beacon thing where we kind of went to different, me and you, we should do a podcast each year from a different part of Tennessee for a Christmas episode. And see
I love that.
I know, it'd be a cool idea. We need to get that in our budget, Justin.
Yeah, Justin, if you're listening, budget for me and Mark to take a Christmas trip. But you're right. When I first started working at Beacon, it was August 2018. And when it came to Christmas time, Mark would come in my office and be like, hey, you want to go to a Christmas bar after work? And I have a picture of us at the Miracle pop-up at Noel in those fiber optic lights the first time we saw it.
That's right.
We used to love doing stuff like that. I miss it downtown, but I'm excited to get some exposure to downtown this weekend and next weekend before I go home for
that'll
Christmas.
Be fun.
Any final thoughts before we sign off for the day, Mark?
Nope, that's it.
Sign up for the email list if you want the pork reports. Once again, this has been Decaf, a production of the Beacon Center of Tennessee. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you next week.